Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. We've got a good just stop tweeting about Brock Bowers. I think if you follow on Twitter, you probably saw this tweet. Hilarious tweet, hilarious take. It's since been deleted, and hey, good on him for realizing that he made a bit of a mistake. We're also going to talk some college football, and that's what we're going to start off the show with. In Florida State, we've talked a lot about them. They obviously got screwed out of not making the playoffs simply because they went 13-0. You can't say they didn't get screwed. They won all their games. They still should have an opportunity to win a national championship. But this is one of those years where the 4-team playoff finally showed its head that you could have 5 really good teams and they all deserve an opportunity. They didn't get it. But we saw last night USC just absolutely pummel with their backup quarterback and Lincoln Riley. The Louisville Cardinals team, they put up by 45 points on them. This is the same Louisville Cardinal team that FSU struggled to score double digits on. So if there was ever a sign that the committee made the correct decision, I think we saw that last night. I'm still not going to say they didn't get screwed. I still want Florida State fans to understand that, but they did make the correct, because no one, if you were going to tell me, you could make the argument for Florida State all the time, but if I told you at the end of that argument, you had to put money line Florida State against whoever they play in the playoffs, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. Not a single sane person would have done that. So boom, there's your argument. And I know gambling can't be used as everything, but you can't sit here and say that you think one team is better than the other because you're doing the most deserving teams. That's what it is. And then say, oh, but no way I would bet that, because that's what you just told me right there that you clearly do not think Florida State belonged in the playoff because you didn't think they could actually win a game. And it's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
I want to preface this rant by saying, Florida State did get shafted. They got screwed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But again, as I said, even prior to the committee actually coming out with the 4 teams, that Florida State didn't belong without Jordan Travis. I mean, they barely beat Florida. They barely beat Louisville. And then what did you think they were going to do as the number 4 or number 3 team against Michigan, Texas, or Washington, whoever they would have met? They would have gotten boat raced, absolutely boat raced. If you're a college football fan outside, anybody outside of Tallahassee should be thanking their lucky stars the committee got this right, because we would be looking at another blowout. I'm talking LSU, Oklahoma. I'm talking Georgia, TCU. I'm talking some of the worst college football playoff games in memory. That's what Florida State would have been. And listen, they still had a very good defense, but the fact of the matter is that offense was less than pedestrian. They couldn't put up anything against Louisville. And also, if you didn't make any money, you should have been listening to us, because we told you that USC Louisville over was cash, because Lincoln Riley is still in the building, and it doesn't matter who's under center. That guy is a wizard. It looks like Miller Moss is up next, and the QB train just keeps rolling for Lincoln Riley.
He's in the train. Oh, no, he's not in the transfer.
Miller Moss played yesterday.
It's their other quarterback. Yeah, no, but a lot of these guys, several of these guys in bowl games are in the transfer portal and still playing in bowl games. So, yeah, you're right. I don't think he's in the transfer portal. It's their other quarterback, the 5-star freshman or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he looked fantastic. Credit to Lincoln Riley. I mean, I tweeted out yesterday. You can say whatever the hell you want about that guy, but that guy is one of the brightest offensive minds. Yeah. And he is a quarterback whisperer. Moss looked incredible. He made one mistake where he threw a pick that almost went for a touchdown the other way, but he threw 6 touchdowns. I think the record in bowl games are in that Holiday Bowl with 6 touchdowns. He tied it. I had it probably if the game wasn't a blowout, he probably would have broken it because nobody was stopping that offense. You can say whatever you want about Lincoln Riley, but yeah, I think the sentiment, and I think most people, I mean, you saw it tweeted out a lot, that it was like, yeah, this FSU team struggled with this Louisville team. And we all knew what Louisville was. It's not,
they lost to Kentucky. Lost to Kentucky.
Nobody was shocked that Louisville went and got boat raced by a backup quarterback in USC. Not a single person. Take the ranking, take the records. This is the whole thing about the ACC. You just didn't have any teams outside of Clemson, and you played the 2 best teams on your schedule in September, which also definitely screwed you. So like I said, unfortunate. I think it's more unfortunate for the players and stuff like that, like the Verses of the world, the Keon Colemans, because those guys are legitimate ballers. And if you've watched the show for longer than just what you're watching today, you see this on YouTube, or maybe it's the first time watching it, we have been talking up Florida State all year. We were literally this team could win a national championship. So this is strictly based on what we saw after their quarterback went down, and they were not going to have a chance to win it. And you couldn't put them over a team like Alabama. Now, It's unfortunate that brands also play into this. If that is an Alabama that wins that, we could be having a different conversation, but it is Alabama. It is Nick Saban. It is a team that's won 6 national championships in the last 12, 13 years, whatever the hell it is. And that all has to be considered. The bias is real because it should be there. It should be. Biases are around for a reason. And the SEC has dominated, particularly Alabama, has dominated college football for the last 15 years. So they're going to get the benefit of the doubt, especially when they beat the number 1 team in the country that just won 29 straight games. Like, it's simple.
I wanted to reiterate that point earlier that you said. I have been the biggest fan of FSU this entire year. And both of us are LSU alums. So this is just no bias. I thought FSU could absolutely win a national championship with Jordan Travis. They had NFL talent at all the most important positions: pass catcher, pass rusher. They have it in the secondary. I'm talking, they had one of the better defenses in the nation. I don't care who they played. That defense was absolutely for real. Without Jordan Travis, they were effectively nothing, and they showed you that against Florida and Louisville. And it sucks to say that, one player can, pretty much keep your entire hopes alive, but it's really not that crazy because it's the quarterback. This isn't anything new. This is football. Quarterback's the most important position in the sport, bar none. And we saw you would have had a chance, I promise. If FSU did what they were supposed to do, boat race Florida, boat race Louisville, we'd have a much different conversation. The fact is you barely got by those 2 teams. You didn't belong in the college football playoffs. Stop whining about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida, I think they did a good enough job on the road to have their standing. It was Louisville that really, everyone knew what Louisville was. You didn't beat them well. You didn't look like you had an offensive pulse, and we didn't want to see another 65-7 game. But this goes back to the point that I like to make about people that are talking about the 12-team playoff negatively because it ruins the regular season and all this other crap, as if those big games aren't going to be around. And you're going to get those big games. They're just going to be college football playoff games. They're still going to be very important. Ooh, maybe we get to see Michigan or Alabama and Georgia twice more often. Would you not like to see that? Sorry, I'm a college football fan. Would love to see it twice.
How cool would it be? How cool would it be to have a matchup that you would never have? Let's say USC coming to Baton Rouge, or Michigan, Ohio State coming to Baton Rouge, or one of those teams going to Athens, because we're going to start having home playoff games. The 12-team playoff is going to be a roaring success once everybody watches the first one.
And it's also the fact that people want to talk about meaningful regular season in college football. College football has been screwing undefeated teams since I was born, and have been screwing undefeated teams since it's basically especially before the 4-team playoff. This is the first time we saw it with the 4-team playoff. But before the 4-team playoff, I mean, think about, I think it was 2004 Auburn with Jason Campbell. That team was unbelievable. They didn't even get a shot at the national championship. They went undefeated in the SEC. They have been screwing undefeated teams for 100 years. And then you're sitting here and saying, oh, but the regular season's so meaningful. How is it meaningful when guys go 13-0 and don't get a chance to win a national championship? It's literally meaningless. They played the entire season and it was meaningless. And you're sitting here talking about how it was so meaningful. Makes zero sense whatsoever. Zero.
Yeah, and another talking point that a lot of people will talk about the 12 team being bad is the Ohio State Michigan game this past year will lose its luster. And to that, I say, yeah, maybe, except for the fact is that game is gonna, result in a playoff bye, which is really important. But also, instead of just that Michigan and Ohio State game meaning something, now the Ohio State Penn State game means a whole lot more because one of those 2 teams is going to sneak into the playoff, and then the Penn State Michigan, vice versa. And then you go to the SEC and you talk about LSU versus Ole Miss. Now Ole Miss is going to be in the playoff and LSU might be left out. LSU Bama. All of these games mean so much more. It's not just the LSU Alabama game, just the Michigan Ohio State game. Now there's more. We're thinking about that next tier matters.
Well, especially with the conferences expanding it the way they are, and a lot of these teams are going to beat up on each other. You're going to have Texas with 2 losses. You're going to have Washington with 2 losses. You're going to have Ohio State with a loss because they finally played a schedule that wasn't just Michigan. You're going to have Michigan in the same breath. So there's going to be all these opportunities for teams to lose and still get back there, and all these games are going to be important, and you're going to be so happy. You're just so nearsighted. It's hilarious, the gatekeeping in college football, but that's the way sports are. Coming up after the break, Ronald Acuna voted the 5th face of baseball. Come on.